Hello and welcome back to Everyday Behavior with Dr. Marianne. This month we are talking about establishing operations, motivating operations, and to some degree trauma. So a lot of times people ask about how does trauma or environmental circumstances in the home setting, whether that's abuse, neglect, or just a lack of adequate resources, how does that play into behavior intervention and how does that impact the child's behavior and what you might do in a behavior intervention? So the first thing that we want to talk about is what an establishing operation is. So establishing operations are anything that impacts your motivation. So let's say a child doesn't have adequate food, adequate sleep, hot water, or running water at all, or maybe they don't have adequate shelter. Well, for any human, if you don't have adequate sleep, that's going to act as a motivating operation or an establishing operation to obtain sleep. Or if you're hungry, we can all relate to this. When we're sleepy or when we're hungry, the only thing we can think about is meeting that need. I'm so hungry. So if you're sitting in a training and you're hungry, you're not thinking about what the presenter is saying. All that you're thinking about is what you're going to have for lunch, when the next break time is, and where the snacks are, right? So you're not necessarily focusing or thinking on what the trainer is talking about, but what you're thinking about and what you're focusing on is when your next meal will be, right? The same goes for students. Whenever their needs, basic needs, aren't met, then rather than focusing on what the teacher is saying, they are focused on another need or meeting another need. And so that's how this might play into trauma, neglect, abuse in the home setting. Now, but it doesn't just apply to trauma, neglect, or abuse. We're going to talk about how this applies to those basic needs a little more in a later video in this series. However, for this video, what we're talking about is establishing operations. Now, establishing operations are anything that impacts your motivation, either about increasing your motivation or decreasing your motivation. So within establishing operations, and if you look at our Facebook page, you will notice a visual that's on addressing motivation. And when we're talking about addressing motivation, first you have that establishing operation. Establishing operations are then divided into either motivating operations. Motivating operations are anything that increases the individual's drive or motivation to engage in a behavior in order to obtain a specific item, reward, reinforcement. Whereas abolishing operations are any variable that decreases an individual's motivation to engage in a behavior. So let's take food, for example. Now, if I've just had a big meal, a big lunch, ate a big dessert, something like that, does that big meal, it's an establishing operation. A big meal is a variable that's going to affect my motivation. Now, is that big meal going to increase my motivation to find more food or edibles or more sweets or treats, or is it going to decrease? Well, if I just had a big meal with a big dessert, that acts as an abolishing operation. It decreases my motivation to go looking for or work for additional snacks, right? But if it's been several hours since I've had a big meal and I've been on a diet and I haven't been eating sweets or sugars, then that acts as a motivating operation. Now, all of a sudden, I am motivated to find a snack, to earn a sweet treat, to find that item. So establishing operations can either act to motivate an individual or they can act to reduce the motivation to obtain a specific thing. This applies to all variables or all functions of behavior. So whether that's attention, if you've just had a lot of attention, that may act as a motivating operation or an abolishing operation. If you've just had a bunch of video games or you just went and got a new toy, so Christmas, you just got a whole bunch of new toys, that may act as an abolishing operation to work for or earn another new toy. Whereas if it's right before Christmas and Santa is watching, then that may act as a motivating operation, okay? Now, with both motivating operations or abolishing operations, those are further reduced or further broken down into value altering or frequency altering. So let's take water for an example. If you are in an airport, okay, well, in an airport, water is limited or restricted because you can't bring water into the airport, right? Or 3 ounces is all you can bring in. Okay, so water is limited. So this acts as a motivating operation to find liquid or water or, tea, coffee, soda, whatever that is, okay? So it acts as a motivating operation. Now, because supply is restricted in the airport, it acts as a value altering. So you are more likely to pay more for water in a airport than you are in Walmart or in a grocery store. So if you're in a grocery store, you likely will not pay $4 for 1 bottle of water. You would probably pay $4 for a case of water, right? But in an airport where the motivation or where the access is restricted, it increases the value, and so you pay more for that item. It can also alter the frequency. So in some circumstances, it could increase the frequency of behavior. So if it has been a while since I have had edibles, like sweet treats, if it's been a long time since I've had sweet treats, well, then when I have the ability to earn sweet treats, once my diet is over or that restriction is over, I may engage in a higher frequency of eating M&Ms or eating candy. Okay, so it can alter the value or it can alter the frequency. The same with abolishing operations. If water is freely available, if you are at home and you have free access to water, soda, tea, coffee, whatever that is, it decreases the value. So you're not willing to work for it. It's an abolishing operation that decreases the value of the item, or it decreases the frequency of the behavior related to that item. So just to recap, establishing operations is anything that increases or decreases motivation. So it's your overarching term. That then is broken down into motivating operations versus abolishing operations. And within each of those, you can either alter the value by increasing in motivation or decreasing and abolishing the value of an object or a reward or a reinforcer, or you can alter the frequency of behavior in order to obtain a specific reward, reinforcer, or item. Okay, I hope this has helped. Like I said, we do have a visual that further describes this on my Facebook page. I do encourage you to like or follow me on Facebook and also to subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional videos in this series. Thank you and have a wonderful day.